According to the Hadith, there are going to be Muslims who fall for the Antichrist. So when he's like, Christians is going to fall for this, yeah, but the Muslims we won't. Like, your prophet says they will. Oh yeah, but what we going to do? So it's just really dumb.
I gave up. I quit. I tapped.
Yeah, I know.
No problem. Let's move on. Okay.
So we'll scroll through a little bit of this discussion, and we'll get to Ali Dawah's contingency argument, and we'll find out why he just contradicted Islam and actually destroyed his own theology of Allah, his own theology of the Quran, without realizing it, because he's so obsessed with attacking. It reminds me of like a few years ago when he was saying that God can't enter into his creation. You remember that, Hatun? Yep. When he was saying God can't enter into his creation, and then people pointed out eventually, like the Quran, I mean, the Hadith says that Allah enters his creation because he has to go hear people's prayers. And he says, oh yeah, he enters his creation, but in a way that befits his majesty. It's like, that's not what you said. You said Allah can't do it. You said God can't do it. And then as soon as it gets pointed out, no, God does that in your sources, then it's, oh, but it's in a way that befit his majesty, isn't it? And it's just like, what are we dealing with?
It is not his fault if he didn't know about those hadiths, and then Christians or critics of Islam stepped in and then showed him these hadiths. He went home and then improved his answer. And same like AP just said, like, oh, he used this argument on me. Well, now he needs new guinea pigs.
Yeah.
And his new guinea pig was GodLogic. He's going to see if it's going to work or not.
When you said it's not his fault, I thought you were going to say it's not his fault. He's stupid.
I was going to say that. I just thought it would be so rude.
It would. It would have been really rude, and I would have objected. I would have said, hey, come on. We know he's stupid. We know he's stupid, but it doesn't mean you have to say it.
They believe, I don't want to give any excuse. They believe Jesus was a man. Was he a man?
He's both. Fully man, fully God.
Okay. He was a man.
You believe Allah's a man?
And he is God.
Over there.
Now I'm asking a simple question. The Antichrist, when he comes back, and he's got powers, because the Bible says he's got powers, he's going to do some things, that normal people can do, and he comes and says, I am God.
Like divide the moon?
Would the Christians or the Muslims fall for his trap?
The Muslims.
The Muslims.
No, Muhammad says the Muslims will fall for it.
I love it. Ali Dawah is trying to make it. Are the Christians or the Muslims? Who's going to fall for it? Muslims. Oh, boy. Let him finish.
What are you talking about?
I know that. I'm talking about
so
generally. I'm talking about
generally.
I'm talking about, what does it even mean? I'm talking about generally.
Oh boy, this is funny. But Hatun, anything you want to address, Hatun, out of this section before I find the contingency argument?
No, we don't need to dig in. That is, Islamic tradition talks about how Allah has curly hairs, steps into the creation, all those kind of things. Difference between Allah and Dajjal is Dajjal has some eye problems. Allah is just perfect. So, and clearly Muhammad warned people that only way they cannot fall away is knowing how nice Allah's eyes is. So don't fall away.
This is the funny thing. On the one hand, Muslims go around teaching and preaching that that Allah definitely is completely outside His creation and cannot and will not enter His creation. On the other hand, you have Muhammad suspecting that some little kid in his presence at his time could have been the Dajjal, and he warns about that kid who also has apparently like an eye problem, or one of his eyes doesn't see or something like that, or I don't know, maybe it's plugged out or something, I don't know. But so he says, in context of that, he says that the Dajjal, he will come, the false Messiah in Islam, he will come, and he will claim to be Allah, but he only has one eye. But you should know, you believers should know that Allah is not one-eyed, so therefore you should not believe him. So while claiming that Allah is completely outside His creation, cannot enter His creation, he also then makes it look like Allah could technically enter creation, but if this guy comes and claims that he is Allah, but he only has one eye, then we should know that this is not Allah, because Allah has two eyes. So Allah would then appear as a two-eyed guy, not as a one-eyed guy.
it's seriously interesting because you have another story. This is in the history of Tabari, where Allah makes a statue of Adam, like before he gives the statue life, and Satan sees this statue and he can't tell if it's Allah or something else. And so he crawls in through the mouth and then eventually works his way out through the butt, not into the butt, because that would be al-zut. But so he works his way out and then he says, aha, I have figured out that is not Allah, because Allah is solid and this is hollow. There's a hollow place through it and so on. But anyway, notice Allah somehow looks exactly like a human, and you can't tell the difference until you know that Allah is solid. Well, but as AP pointed out, you have these prophecies of Muhammad. Muhammad says, you got the Dajjal. The Dajjal is going to come along. He's going to get a bunch of followers. Then he's going to announce that he's God and so on. He's going to have curly hair. He's going to be short. Goes down the list, and then but how are we going to tell the difference between him and Allah? Well, Allah has two eyes, but this dude has one. So he's got, as Hatun has pointed out, he's got some eye problems. Today Muhammad would say, the Dajjal, he wears spectacles, whereas Allah, he has perfect 20/20 vision. So just give an eye test, an eye exam when the Dajjal shows up and so on. Well, guys, what's the implication? What's the implication of saying, how are we going to tell the difference between the Dajjal and Allah? Oh, you got to count up the eyes. Count up the eyes. What's it mean? It means that and just so everyone knows, GodLogic points this out repeatedly to Ali Dawah. But guys, get your mind around that. It really sounds like Allah is identical to the Antichrist, the Dajjal, who's going to be right in front of them. What's that mean? It means that Allah looks exactly like a human being, and that he's almost indistinguishable from this short curly-haired guy. So if Allah is indistinguishable, then Allah looks exactly like a human being. Why wouldn't Muslims fall for this?
I gave up. I quit. I tapped.
Yeah, I know.
No problem. Let's move on. Okay.
Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah, GodLogic still crushing him on this, and Ali Dawah says, I tap. I give up. And because he wants to go on to his contingency argument. Let's see.
Now, guys, the argument from contingency. This is an argument that, yes, contingency. Now, Christianity.
That's funny because GodLogic's thinking what I thought. It's like, what, a contingency argument? That's an argument for the existence of God. Why would you be using that? But this is Ali Dawah. He doesn't understand the argument and doesn't understand how to apply the principles he's using. But here's the disturbing part every single time. You've got a guy who doesn't understand what he's saying, makes all sorts of stupid claims that sound stupid to anyone who understands what he's saying. But his followers don't understand what he's saying, but he's using words like necessary and contingent and so on. So it sounds like he knows what he's saying, even though he sounds like a complete idiot to anyone who's watching. That's the situation.
Let's go. Now, brothers and sisters, the first thing I'm going to say is this. There are three types of existence.
Three types of existence?
There's three types of existence. Okay.
You got that? 3 types of existence. And now he's going to explain the 3 types of existence, everyone. Philosopher and brilliant theologian Ali Dawah here.
There is impossible existence.
Impossible.
Impossible existence is what is the first type of existence, ladies and gentlemen. You guys got that? Oh boy. So impossible existence, that's one type of existence. Okay, so we got that.
Existence?
Yes. There is possible existence.
There's possible existence.
And there is necessary existence.
All right, define, like...
I'm going to give you the definitions.
Yeah, give me an example of an impossible existence.
Okay, so there are 3 types of existence. Okay.
But
impossible existence is like having...
necessary?
The point is, impossible is not a kind of existence. It's not existence. It can't exist, right? So, but he's calling impossible a kind of existence. He's calling impossible existence one of the 3 kinds of existence. And it's funny because, like, GodLogic's just like, so that's not existence, right? Hang on, let me back up a little. Okay, here we go.
Possible existence.
There's possible existence.
And there is necessary existence.
All right, define, like...
I'm going to give you the definitions.
Yeah, give me an example of an impossible existence.
Okay, so there are 3 types of existence. Okay, impossible existence is like having a triangle square.
So does it exist?
No.
So it doesn't exist.
Hang on.
It's an impossible existence.
So it doesn't exist?
No, it won't exist. You can't have a triangle square.
So then there's only 2 types of existences right now?
No,
You get that? Like, Ali Dawah is the one who uses this as one of his main arguments now, and GodLogic just burns him up right at the beginning. So, everyone, in case you missed it, Ali Dawah says, there's 3 types of existence here. 1, there's impossible existence, then there's contingent existence, and then there's necessary existence in it. And GodLogic's like, wait, what are they? Oh, yeah, impossible existence. He goes, give me an example. Like a square triangle, isn't it? Does it exist? No. Okay, it's not a type of existence. It's not. So there, and then GodLogic points. So there are 2 types of existence: necessary and contingent. Yeah, that's right. And that's my point. It's Ali Dawah does not understand what the heck he's saying, and GodLogic instantly understood what he was saying. Instantly understood his argument better than he did, and had to correct him on like him setting up his argument. This is wild.
He admitted to me that he hasn't ever read a book, so I don't know why he's trying to philosophize here.
we have 2 types of existence left.
Okay.
The possible existence is, for example, me, you, our planet, our solar system, the sun, the galaxies, etc. Why? My definition of a contingent being, a possible existence, is that something that relies on something else for its existence. It can be composed of pieces, and it can be any other way. So that means I am dependent, you are dependent, our planet is dependent, the sun is dependent, the galaxies are dependent, right? Now, we cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, good. So,
just to understand that point, everyone.
This problem has been solved 1,500 or 1,600 years ago in Christology. What he's trying to get to here, hasn't it?
This is just wild stuff, but here we go.
we say that there has to be a necessary being that is not composed.
How would you define dependence?
Okay, so dependency is something that relies on something else for its existence. It can be composed of pieces, and it can be any other way.
Good.
Good. So we say that you cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things, which means we need a independent, necessary being that cannot be any other way and cannot be composed of pieces.
Got it.
Perfect.
Not
Now-
be composed of pieces.
Yes.
Did you say composed of pieces? You could tell where he's going with that, right?
Yeah.
He just destroyed Islam.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Allah has body parts. Allah's made up of body parts, guys. And you can see GodLogic right there. Huh? What? You said what? Huh? Awesome stuff.
Oh, man.
All right.
Good. Now, was Jesus
You just gotta love GodLogic's like, okay, I'm waiting, but this is hilariously bad, and he's always amused. Awesome.
dependent or independent?
He's independent.
He's independent.
Yes.
Okay. So my definition of dependency was something that relies on something else for its existence.
Yeah, you said something that relies on another
Something else
being,
exists.
right?
It can be any other way, and it's not composed of pieces.
Yeah. So, all right. So,
Jesus is all 3 of those.
oh, no. So when you said dependence, right?
Yes.
Dependence is relying on something outside of your being, right?
No, it depends on it's your dependence requires on something else. For
When you say
existence.
something else,
For example, I need water, I need to sleep, the planet needs the sun to be a perfect distance so we don't freeze to death. The sun
you
has
say
its orbit.
let's try.
What?
Did you say I need muta?
Yeah, he needs muta and water. You know what's funny, by the way? GodLogic here, he already blocked Ali Dawah's argument in case Ali Dawah was trying to attack the Trinity in terms of, does the nature of the Son or the nature of the Spirit depend on the Father and so on? GodLogic defined dependence as depending on another being, And so if Ali Dawah had gone after the Trinity there, the nature of the Son is not depending on another being. They all share the same being. So he already preemptively blocks it, thinking, like I did, that that's where Ali Dawah was going to go. And Ali Dawah doesn't even give that, which even as, as bad as that would be as a contingency argument, would have been massively better than what he actually argues here, which is just him not understanding basic terms and then trying to use them in an argument, because the people he would normally use them with don't understand them either.
So the sun relies on something outside of its own being for its existence,
Not
right?
being. It requires something else to survive.
That's outside of it.
What are you laughing at, Hatun?
No, they're gonna have a conversation what is being means, and you can see actually Ali Dawah doesn't know what he's talking about.
That's right. He doesn't know what being means. I forgot. That is true. He doesn't know what being means. There we go.
Being.
Yes.
That's outside of its being.
No, when you say being, what do you mean by that?
A being is its ontology, what it is, its existence. So something else that exists gives itself existence. So another being.
Which is the fastest growing.
No, brother. That's please. Let's suppose it's Christianity.
So just to solidify, so dependency is something that relies on another being for its existence, or
on another thing for its existence.
Can we?
GodLogic just said dependency is something that relies on another being for its existence. He goes, another thing. It's like, okay. A thing is a being, Ali Dawah. So he doesn't know what the word being means. He's giving a contingency argument and doesn't know what a being is. And he thinks that not existing necessarily because something is contradictory and can't possibly exist is one of the three kinds of existence. Something that can't exist because it would be contradictory is a kind of existence.
Can we solidify on being? So would you say that the thing is another?
I don't
being?
require water is not a being. I require water. I need water.
Water is a being. Being is just a state of existence. It has ontology.
If that's your definition of being, then yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that's what the word means, Ali Dawah. Okay. If that's your definition.
So dependency, you rely on...
My definition of being is something that's not water, yeah.
Other being for your existence.
Yes.
All right, let's go on.
That's my argument. So you said that Jesus is independent.
Yeah, he's independent.
Okay, that is not independency.
Okay.
Because Jesus is number one. Jesus could be any other way.
He could be any other way?
What did Jesus look like?
I don't know.
Is there anything you other?
You're talking about his human nature?
Yes.
Well, we're talking about his divine nature.
No, I'm talking about...
Ever get that? That was the huge misunderstanding here on Ali Dawah's part. So when Ali Dawah is asking GodLogic, is Jesus dependent or independent? GodLogic says independent because he's God. He eternal. Everything that's created, everything that comes into being is created through Jesus. And therefore, he's in a different category of things that have not come into being. They always existed. Whereas Ali Dawah was talking about Jesus who's walking around, the Sea of Galilee and so on, the actual physical well, he was born, so he's not in that category of things that always existed and so on. So anyway, they got to clarify that, and we'll see where they go here. But AP, get ready, because you're going to learn some theology that'll help you as a cat human.
Human nature, what did he look like?
I don't know.
Did he have 2 arms?
Yes, he did.
Could he have been born with no arm?
Possibly.
Okay, so he can be any other way, so he's dependent.
Oh yeah, but you're talking about his human nature versus his divine nature.
No, I'm not talking about human nature.
Okay, so
I'm saying Jesus.
I would agree that the human nature is dependent. I would agree.
Okay, no, but if it's dependent, then you cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. It has to depend on something that's independent.
Yeah.
So, what is the?
Oh, guys, on the point about infinite regress, I think we've discussed everything else, but on the point of an infinite regress is if you take this thing and you say this is dependent, it depends on this other thing. You say, okay, what is that thing dependent or independent? Oh, well, it also depends on this thing. The point is you can't just go back forever with a series of dependent things because it's like there's nothing to get it started. So the argument from contingency is, you've got different kinds of arguments and so on. The basic idea, if you're using an infinite regress, is you eventually need something that exists necessarily to either get things started on one view or that is responsible kind of for the entire series. Let's see.
Dependent thing.
Jesus' divine nature. So because Jesus,
one second.
let me finish. Let me answer in full. Okay, because Jesus has a divine nature, he has a nature that is independent. Okay,
you can't be dependent and independent at the same time.
Yeah, well, I agree that you can't be dependent and independent at the same time in the same sense.
Did you catch it? This is what's funny.
He doesn't get it.
Yeah, guys, I have a background in philosophy. GodLogic, who just runs into this argument because that's what Ali Dawah brings it up, and GodLogic's just like asking questions and stuff, but he's correctly pointing out all the flaws in what Ali Dawah is saying here. So right off the bat, when Ali Dawah says there's 3 types of existence here, one of them is impossible existence. Oh yeah, what's an example of that? Like a square triangle. Okay, so it doesn't exist? No, okay, so it's not a type of existence. There's 2 types of existence, right? So you corrected him there. And then here Ali Dawah saying something can't be necessary and contingent at the same time, or something can't be independent and dependent at the same time. And anyone who's taken a logic class at any point or a philosophy class would instantly think, no, you can't be dependent and independent in the same sense, at the same time, in the same sense.
Because Jesus has a divine nature, he has a nature that is independent. Okay?
You can't be dependent and independent at the same time.
Yeah, well, I agree that you can't be dependent and independent at the same time in the same sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. Jesus is independent in regards to his divine nature, dependent in regards to his human nature.
But my argument is the following. I told you there are 3 types of existence. Impossible
We eliminated
existence,
one of them.
Triangle, square.
I love how he keeps burning them up. We already eliminated. I said that there's 3 types. Dude, isn't this amazing? Like, quit calling it 3 types of existence. One of them is non-existence, right? It's the opposite of existence. Oh boy.
If I'll give you a little recap there, let's say this, because the triangle and square are distinct.
Right.
The triangle has 3 sides, the square has 4 sides.
Yep.
So the triangle, let's name the triangle Jesus. And let's name the square the Father.
No. Let's do that.
Let's not. Let's not do that.
No, was it?
No, let's name the triangle flesh and name the square divine.
No, because you know why? Because there are 2 separate opposite beings.
No,
let me tell you. Let me finish. Because you know where this is going. Now, yes, I'll be laughing if I was you too. You know when the nerves come up, you gotta release it one hand, brother. It's either by farting or laughing.
That's right.
Yes. Okay. So now, guys, the triangle and square are 2 opposites. So I said an impossible existence. What?
Did he say a triangle and a square are opposites?
To have a triangle square, they're impossible. It's just the same way of saying us, dependent, independent.
Okay.
2 opposites, black, white.
Nice.
So now, and then I said, there are dependent things. Like myself, I depend on water, sleep, shelter, food, and many other things to survive. I asked the question, is Jesus dependent or independent? He said, he's independent. I said to him, no, because Jesus, when he was born, could have been born with one arm missing. He said, yes. That shows he's composed of pieces. He could be any other way, and he's dependent.
Okay.
And I said, it depends on why. He goes, it depends on his independence.
No, can I?
What he actually said, Ali Dawah, is what anyone with a functioning reasoning ability would say. Divine nature, human nature. You can say you don't believe it, but it's not a contradiction, sport. You just don't know because you don't even understand what a contradiction is.
All right, thank you. So you're conflating categories. So when you ask me, is Jesus dependent or independent? I said independent. That's in regards to his divine nature. He's the dependency, the human nature is dependent. Okay? It's composite, of course. Now you said that this is like doing sorry.
This belong to you?
Yeah, this is me. Okay. You said that this is like doing a squared circle. Now let me ask you this, because I agree with you that a square and a circle cannot be, or triangle square. Sorry, triangle square cannot be the same thing, right? Now let me ask you this:
Are you laughing at him saying no, triangle square?
Yes.
You get that? Because everyone else for contradiction usually goes with square circle. Ali Dawah square triangle, and then
no triangle.
Yeah, so apparently when he memorizes a little piece of paper that someone hands him, you can't change anything, right? So he's saying, so it would be like a square circle. No, square triangle.
Can a triangle and a square be put next to each other?
Yeah.
Okay, is that a contradiction?
No.
Okay, so I'm not saying that the divine nature and the human nature are intertwined and mixed and are the same exact thing. I'm saying that they're next to each other. They're united in the person of Jesus.
Next to,
Okay?
no. When you make them next to, when you mix them next to each other, unite them as one force of the triangle.
They're not
square.
mixed.
That's why I said it's an impossible existence, because you can't have triangle square. They are distinct.
That's what I'm saying. That's not a triangle square. They're next to each other. I have a triangle and I have a square.
No, but what you've done is
each
it looks like a house. It's like.
What's up?
I think GodLogic is getting there, and he's doing a good thing. But this is precisely the point here, Ali Dawah. We're not saying that it is a triangle and a square at the same time. That would be, for example, in terms of Christology, that there would be the two completely mixing, the two natures completely mixing and becoming one. Which is in Christianity not accepted as proper Christology. It is considered heretical, which is why the two natures are united and come together without confusion, without mixing, and without being separated. So the analogy that Ali Dawah is making here is not similar to the nature of Christ. He doesn't understand it.
Square and the triangle. It's like a little house, isn't it? Yeah. But it's like it doesn't work here because
I love this. You put a triangle and a square together, it look like a little house, isn't it? Let me back this up because this is awesome. This is learning your shapes with Ali Dawah. Everyone, if you take a square and you put a triangle on top, it looks like a house. Watch Ali Dawah point that out to everyone just so they know.
And mixing are the same exact thing. I'm saying that they're next to each other. They're united in the person of Jesus.
Next to,
okay?
No. When you make them next to each other, unite them as one force of the triangle.
They're not
square.
mixed.
That's why I said it's an impossible existence, because you can't have triangle square. They are distinct.
That's what I'm saying. That's not a triangle square. They're next to each other. I have a triangle and I have a square.
No, but what you've done is
it
looks like a house. It's like a square and a triangle. It's like a little house, isn't it? Yeah. But it's like this.
A house can't exist because that would be a square and a triangle together, in it. So you can't have something that look like a house.
Because the house just fell apart. You know why? Because I'm saying, can you have a triangle square? He's saying no. When you put the triangle and square together, if you look at it, guys, it looks like a little house, yeah? But your argument of houses fell apart. I'm saying
This is Dawah, everyone. Learning shapes with Ali Dawah.
Because you're saying, can you have a square and triangle put together? I said yes, and it doesn't contradict.
Okay.
I said, can you have a triangle square?
Right, and I say no, right? So look, notice, let's get on the same page, okay? You and I both agree that you cannot have a triangle and a square in the same way, in the same sense, okay? We agree.
Ooh, what does that remind you? Once I say that again,
hold on a second.
No, say that again.
I'll say it again, sure, for the audience.
Yes.
You cannot have a triangle and a square in the same way, in the same sense.
Wow.
So understand.
If only you just said Jesus and the Father.
Wait, hold on.
Night.
Ali Dawah, follow what I'm saying. Follow what I'm saying, okay? What I'm saying
you're going astray.
What I'm saying is that we have a triangle and we have a square next to each other, united. Not that they're mixed, not that they're combined, they're united in the person. Okay? So I'm not saying that Jesus is independent and dependent in the same exact way, in the same sense. That would be a contradiction. I'm saying that he has a nature that is independent and a nature that is dependent. Two different natures united in the person. That's called the hypostatic union. This is Christian theology.
That's